So even though we were friends, we ended up fighting, and he ended up stabbing me in the back, and the tip of it broke off. So I had to get it out. No one could get it out. I went to medical to get it out, and basically they wanted me to sign in, but I wouldn't sign in. I wanted to go back to that same range. I loved it there. I would never sign in, right? And so they're like, okay, well, you're gonna have to sign this piece of paper saying that the Don's not responsible for your life if you go back to the range and get killed on that range.
Everybody, I'm Blessed and Free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV. So, man, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people watching at home? Just tell them your name and where you're from.
My name is Mickey Gavin. Everybody calls me Eddie because that was like my dad's name. My middle name was Eddie, so I've just gone by Eddie my whole life. I'm from Toronto, Ontario. It's in Canada. It's one of the biggest cities in Canada. We're located pretty close to Buffalo and New York.
I actually interviewed a dude that has a Canada prison YouTube channel, Matt Clark. If you guys are watching, man, go check his channel out. Have you checked him out?
I'm doing an interview with him on Sunday, actually.
Okay, bet that up, bro. All right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So, all right, man. You grew up in Canada.
I had a rough childhood. Like, my grandma was murdered at a very young age, and person who murdered her got found not guilty in court, so our family never had like recognition for that, and I was only like a young kid at that time. So, and then I was basically like getting in a lot of trouble through grade school, getting kicked out grade 7, get kicked out grade 8. I only went to grade 9, got kicked out again grade 9, and then stopped going to school. Moved out on my own when I was 15 years old. Basically just started like selling like weed and stuff at like a young age of 12, 13, and then it progressed into the harder stuff around 15 years old.
So let me ask you this, man. Why do you think you chose to sell weed and get in trouble instead of just like going the square route? Like what was it, man, young in your life?
Basically like the people I grew up around and stuff like that. My dad was kind of like a gangster, so I kind of already seen that from my dad and stuff like that. So basically, I always idolized that, like from my dad, like watching the old mob movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
Goodfellas and all that shit.
So I looked up to my dad for that. You know, he was the oldest out of eight kids, so we had a pretty big family that way. They're all from Toronto too. My dad even did time in the Don when he was younger as well, which is another jail I'm going to get into in a bit. But yeah, so I don't know why I chose that route. I was just always like that. I listened to the rap music. Basically at 12, I started listening to like Eminem and DMX and all that kind of music. And I just, I love the culture, you know. I was always a kid to wear like the baggy pants and the sideways hats and like at a young age as a kid.
Yeah. That's how I was too, man.
My first time in jail was YO. It was an open custody place. It was just like a little place. It's like you go there, it's almost like a group home, but it's like the first jail you go to before actual youth jail. So it's like an open custody. It's not a real jail. Then a little while after that, I went to a place called Tyack. Now, Tyack was like a YO jail from, I think, 14 to 19, but it was really bad. Like, when I was in there, it was during the time of SARS. I don't know if you guys remember SARS. It was like kind of like COVID-19, but it was called SARS. It was a SARS outbreak.
Yeah. SARS or whatever.
Years ago, yeah. It wasn't as bad as now, obviously, but yeah, so SARS was an outbreak. So the first time I went in, it was 23 and a half hour lockdown. And I thought this is how jail was, because this is the first time me going to actual jail.
It is like that though in some jails now.
Right. So this was a long corridor with like the bars and stuff like that, like a long hallway that goes down to like 18 cells. And so when I first came into the range, this guy calls me over to the cell and he goes, "Hey," and I come over, he's like, "What are you in for?" I tell him and everything. He's got these gold teeth and he says, "I'm G." He goes, "I'm in for murder." He goes, "This is my range. And he's like showing me a shank and stuff, right? I'm like, okay, cool, right on. So I went into my cell and everything. And then basically it was like with the half an hour, they'd let half the range out for half an hour and then the other half out for half an hour. So you had to do your phone and shower, everything in half an hour. So every time I come out, guys were getting shanked over the phone. We had the actual chicken bones, like the drumsticks. So they would make them out of those chicken bones, sharpen down a shank and make it out of that. So I'm like, fuck, this is how, sorry, I'm like, this is how jail really is. Every time like you come out, people are getting shanked. I'm only like 14 at this time, 15.
I've seen them smoke crack out of one of those chicken bones.
Oh my God.
Yeah, bro. They ain't playing in there, man. And definitely I've seen them make the shanks and shit out of the bone too.
In jail, you come up with the like MacGyver stuff, you know, it's like you make anything out of everything in there.
So let me ask you this, man. When you walked into this jail and this is your first time, you know, being arrested, going into jail, like how does it work in Canada for you being a white boy coming into jail? You don't really know like the, you know, how to move and shit and be a convict yet. So like, how does that go? Is somebody like, hey, bro, check me out real quick and put you up on game, or you just learning this shit?
Because of the lockdown, like the whole time only coming out for half an hour at a time, nobody really like came up to me. It was just at the beginning, that one guy, right? That G guy. So at the beginning, it was more or less just like, I kind of caught on quick how it was like, you got to try to get in the line for the phone in the shower and stuff like that. I basically didn't even try to go on the phone the first time I was in there. I was kind of just sitting back and watching everything, right? And I'm thinking, okay, these guys are getting stabbed over the phone. I'm gonna stay away from the phone, right? And I'm just like later on, as I did a lot more time, obviously I got involved with everything, right? But yeah, it was pretty freaky the first time seeing all that, and so I kind of just kept to myself. A few guys were coming; they would come out. Two guys would come out and hand out the food, stuff like that. And I got the 2-for-1, so I got the time served for that. And then I started going to the jails, Maplehurst, Lindsay, and Penetang, which are like the big super jails. They have like I think 2,000 people in it, and it's got like the pod with the range A, B, C, D, E, F, like in a circle. The pod, the bubbles in the middle where the guards sit, and then they have like ranges A, B, C, D, E, F, and like different floors and stuff.
How long into your, you know, going to jail and being incarcerated was it until you ran into like your first issue, like violence? Or
basically this after the TIAC thing, when I turned 18 and went to Maplehurst, that was the first time I got put on like everything. The servers called me over. They're like, yeah, we're the servers, this is what goes on, da da da. And basically what they would do is the weaker guys, like the white guys sort of thing, they would get all the trays on the table and then say there was like a donut or something in there. They wouldn't come up and be like, yo, can I take this, or like TOH or none. They would just literally pop the trays and take the stuff out and then hand it to you, right? Yeah. So right away, I'm like, yo, I got into a fight with this other white guy named P. He called me to the back. There was this place behind the block there where they go and fight and stuff in Maplehurst. And in most super jails, they all look the exact same. They're all designed perfectly the same. All 3 jails are identical. So I go in behind this thing, and you know, I got a good, he punched me a couple of times, I punched him a couple of times. I had like the shiner, he had like a busted lip, stuff like that. And the coppers don't really come in there because it's behind the block. So a lot of times they won't see it, right? So we're fighting and everything like that. It was all because I wouldn't give them my dessert, right? And so then once they seen I was gonna fight for my desserts, that's all it was for the dessert. They like basically would rather go and get it from someone else, like because there was a couple other white guys on the range that when they try to take it from them, they would just be like not say nothing. When they pop their tray and take their stuff, they give them the tray, they wouldn't say a word. Where me, I'm like, yo man, aren't I supposed to get a donut? Da da da, like going right up to him, right? And then he's like, yeah, here's your donut, come with me, forward to the back type of thing, right? Just because I even asked for it. So that's how that went.
What would you say, man, was the craziest thing like you saw actually happen when you were locked up?
That would be probably the Don jail. The Don jail was crazy, man. There was guys getting killed in there and everything. Like the Don is really bad. That's like gangland. So the Don was my second last time in. So I had probably gone in like 8 other jails before that, right? And so I went to the Don jail. You come in, you get strip searched, all that. You go up to your range. Now the coppers don't even give you a cell, okay? They just throw you in the range. You don't even get a cell or nothing. So basically the inmates make their own cells because I guess they can't put them in a cell with their op gang or whatever. So they'll kill each other in the middle of the night or whatever, right? So they don't give you a cell. So you got to go up and figure out where you're going to sleep and stuff like that. Now, every new person always goes to cell 18, which is the very end cell. Because it's like I said, it's the Don's just like TAC. It's a long bars, and there's like tables all the way down and phones and TVs on the one side, cells on the other, and it's all bars going all the way down. And then there's like bars going all the way around the range. There's a front side and a back side. Now the coppers sit on the front side and can see down that range, but they can't see like in the back where the showers and stuff are and toilets. But where I am on 3C North backside, they can't see nothing until they come around and do their walk, right? Which is like every half an hour or something. But the copiers there were scared to even come on the range because in the Don, it's like out of 40 guys, maybe 30 of them have shanks. Like if you're there more than a month, you're gonna have a shank. Like it's like that in there.
And the cops know that, and that's why they don't want to come into the dorm.
Yeah, like they don't do anything. They don't come in there ever unless it's SWAT. Like they come in with SWAT, they'll make us put our arms out the bars and they'll handcuff us to the bars. And then so when they come in, we're all handcuffed to the bars. We can't move or anything, right? So that's how they do the shit in there, the searches and that. But so I went to cell 18 right away, and the guy, the server, he was a 5 PT Crip from Weston Road. He came up to me and he's like reaches down into my cell. He's talking to me and everything, telling me about how the jail works and everything. He took a liking to me for some reason right away. And he was like, yeah, this and that. My name's Slugs and this and that. And he's like, okay. Basically, he was running the pod at the time. Now, this pod, after a while, I started to notice after Slugs went to the pen, this pod, like where I was on this range, it started flipping up. Like 1 week, the Bloods would be running it, and then they get into a fight and they'd go off to the hole. The next week, the Crips would be running it. And then a bunch of Gators would land on the range. They would fight for like control, more or less. And from month to month, it was because I was there 14 months. So I seen a lot of different times when the range would flip over to a whole different set running the range.
Did you get affiliated when you were in there?
Right away, they started accusing me. The Crips started, Falstaff Crips and the Weston Road 5PG Crips started accusing me of being a Blood, right? Because I have some tattoos that are red and stuff like that. Some of them have red on them and stuff, right? And so right away, they started thinking I was a Blood and stuff. And I was like, no, man, I'm not a gang member, right? I'm just, I grew up with gangs. My cousin was a Crip and my best friend was a Blood, right? But I never actually was in a gang myself. My other older cousin was a Hells Angels. So like, and some of my uncles. So I was never in a gang because my dad always told me, you don't want to be in the gang. You just want the gang to respect you, because if you're in the gang, everything you work for is going to go to somebody else, he said. Just be your own man and keep your own stuff,
Yeah,
so
that's
what my dad
right
taught
there.
me. So I never wanted to join a gang, But like I said, my best friend Tony was an Asian guy. He was a Blood down in Jane and Finch area. And so they kept accusing me of being a Blood and this and that. I kept telling them, no, I'm not a Blood, but like I know some Bloods, Like some of my friends are Bloods. I told them the truth. I told them Jane and Finch and all this. So they said, we're gonna call out to the street and all this, right? To find out about who I am or whatever. So they called out, I guess they went out the Blood. There was like 4 or 5 Blood guys. They went, this one guy, Jimmy, he went and called some people he knew on the street. And they're like, they come back and they're like, is your name Fast Eddie? And I'm like, yeah, Eddie. I told you my name's Eddie. I don't know if they call me Fast Eddie. I've never heard that, but I guess the guys were like, yeah, Fast Eddie. I know I'm the white boy, blah, 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 because it's all black and Asian around there, right? So if you're a white guy, you stand out pretty quick around Jane and Finch. So they came up to me and they're like, oh, like, yeah, we Fast Eddie and all this. They thought it was hilarious that the nickname that these other guys had told them on the phone. So these Blood guys started liking me and stuff like that. I started hanging out with them, playing the spades and cards and stuff. And the Ludi, this game Ludi, I learned how to play way back. So I already knew how to play this game called Ludi that I learned on like my 3rd time in. It's like a dice game. It's almost like a gang story where it's like you're all 4 corners. They like write their hoods wherever they're from. And like, you'll have like 4 pieces and you'll want to roll the dice to kill that guy. It's a Jamaican game that they play on a big board in Jamaica, supposedly, but they draw it on like a sheet on the table. They draw it out. I know how to draw it out now because I played it so much. But
how many years total have you done locked up, man?
In and out, I've done about 8 years, but on my paperwork, it probably says like 12 because of all the 2-for-1. I would do like 18 months, and then you go to court and it would be ×2. Anything dead time before your sentence would be 2-for-1. So you get time served, like say they're asking 3 years, and then, or however many months, because they do it in months. So you do 18 months and then times 2, and then that would be like time served, for example, or a year would be 2 years, or 10 months would be 20 months. That sort of thing is how my bids went. It was always
So you've done a lot of time then.
yeah, but it was never the pen, which my older cousin who wasn't the pen would say to me, you should just plea out right away and go to the pen, because like you have your own clothes, your own TV, all this freedom in there. And where when you're in the actual like provincial, it's like you have nothing. You know what I mean? You have absolutely nothing, unless obviously the Don jail was the most like, on the Don they just walk around and smoke like this, like as if it's nothing in there, like smoke joints, whatever. They would ask me to make a wick, so I would make the wick, put it in the shower, and like each brick was half an hour. So in the morning, I'd make this real long wick and put it in the shower, and it would hang down like this. So anyone would just go up and get a light anytime, so they don't waste the batteries to make the light. I would make the light for them with the batteries, because I was one of the only guys that knew how to do it. So right away, I went into cell 18 when I got there for one night, and then they told me about what cell 18 is. The guys will just run in there, jump on people's tables with the new people in there, jump on their paperwork. They don't care, knock their food, just to jump up in there and smoke. Or that's the fighting cell where everyone goes to fight if it's open, like in the mornings and stuff. So right away, I went into cell 17 beside me, which was this other guy, another white guy. He was going to be going to the pen. He had done some pen time. He was from the East End of Toronto, so I got along with him pretty good. We played a lot of cards, but me and him weren't compatible in the cell. We were friends, but like I didn't like, I'm a really clean guy, so no offense to him, but like he had stuff everywhere, right? And it felt like I had no room to move or put anything in the cell, right? So even though we were friends, we ended up fighting, and he ended up stabbing me in the back, and the tip of it broke off. So I had to get it out. No one could get it out. I went to medical to get it out, and basically they wanted me to sign in, but I wouldn't sign in. I wanted to go back to that same range. I loved it there. I would never sign in, right? And so they're like, okay, well, you're going to have to sign this piece of paper saying that the Don's not responsible for your life if you go back to the range and get killed on that range. So I had to sign a paper saying that I'm not checking in, that if I go back there, it's not their fault, type of thing. Basically now I've basically signed my life away. If I get killed on that range, my family can't sue. Like it's basically my own fault.
Yeah, that's
if
crazy,
anything happens there. But man, I wasn't going to check in. I was like, nah, man, like, you know, my family would kill me. My own family would kill me. Never mind. Like I would get out. My older cousins would beat me up.
Out of all the time that you've done being locked up, man, like what have you taken away from all of it?
Just being in jail so much. Like my whole childhood, my whole like 20s was lost in jails, like until I was about 2012 time. And I was just like, I got out, I met the girl I'm with now in 2012. My last time was 2011 in the West. And it was just like the longest I was out was like a month at a time, and I would go right back. So I learned like that's no place to be. I don't want to spend my whole life in there. And, you know, pretty much my whole life up to that point was all jail. So it was like, I want to live a normal life. I want to have things. Like every time I would go to jail, I'd lose everything I own. I'd lose my apartment. I'd lose everything.
So how did you make that change, man?
I basically got with this girl. I moved away from my city, from my area, and I stopped like hanging out with all my friends and stuff like that. And I basically kept to myself. Honestly, started playing video games and keeping to myself. I got a PlayStation, and I just would keep to myself and work and stuff like that. I was like, you know, this time I'm not going back. I said that like 20 times before that. Like I would always say that, but this time I actually was like, you know what? I'm going to move away, because I would get out and I would go right back to the same spot and just keep doing what I was doing. And it would happen again a week or a month later. So I'm like, you know what? This time I'm just too old for this stuff now. And that last time, second last time in the Don, I almost went to jail for 7 years that time. So that really freaked me out. I did 14 months waiting to go to trial, and then I ended up beating the trial. And then so I used all the time that I already had in for different set of charges, because that was Thousand Finch Court and the other one was City Hall. I had 2 different sets. I even did bids for people before, like just because we did a bunch of stuff, and then I would get caught, and then they would all get away, and then I would do all the time, you know, and then done that for me before. Like one time this guy's arm got broken, and the guy kept saying it was me, but my other friend Scotia, he's like, nah, man, like, no, he wasn't involved, because really I wasn't involved. You know, it was just allegedly.
How long has it been since you've been out of jail or prison, man?
Since 2012. 2000 to like 2011 was my 8 years.
Okay.
I'd come out for a month or two at a time, and then I'd be right back in. Sometimes it would be like a week. Like this one time, this guy cheated with my baby mom, right? And this guy, Rick, so he wanted to fight me, store. And he pulls out a knife. I seen a piece of wood on the ground. I picked it up, cracked his skull, broke his arm, like where the knife was. I kind of hit him in the arm. It broke his arm. And then I hit him in the head. And this guy literally wanted to fight me. He ends up calling the cops on me, right? Now, the way I was in the street, I was like way against ratting. I wanted to make a name for myself. So I literally sat in there for like 10 months in the Lindsay jail the whole time thinking, I'm going to mess this guy up when I get out, man. I don't care if I come back. So as soon as I came out, not even 3 days out, I went and messed this guy up real bad, right? To show everybody, like, just because you rat doesn't mean the person's going to go away and forget about you and be like, oh, I don't want to go beat this guy up now because he ratted on me. Now I'm scared that he'll rat on me. So I came out and I beat the guy real bad. I went right back to jail, right? But I wanted to prove a point. I didn't care at that time in my life. I was like, you know what? I want to prove a point. These rats can't just rat on people and think nothing's going to happen because they'll just call the cops again, type of thing, right? So I made it like a point to prove this to people in my area. Okay, so in the Don, it was crazy in there, right? Guys were getting killed in there and always fighting. But so me personally, they would get me to fight on Friday night fight night, right? So I'm fighting every Friday night. And then, so like they would put guys against me, right? And say if I won, they would put a bigger guy up next. And I wouldn't have no time in between. I would have to fight him right after. And then I would win 2 or 3 times, and then they would send like a big guy with half his head shaved off, all burnt, half his head burnt and everything like that. This guy was a monster, okay? Me and him are going at it in the showers. They hit me with this castor oil thing. Castor oil goes all over my body, so now I'm slippery, right? So now it's even hard for him to get a hold of me and stuff like that. I swear to you, I think God saved my life that day. It was like I was seeing the fight in slow motion. It was like God was putting the fight in slow motion, and I was like seeing everything happening, and I would like somehow duck in his stuff, and it was crazy. And the guys are like, come on, go, go. And me and him are standing there like either one of us can even lift our arms anymore, right? Because it went on for so long that we were both like trying to put our arms up, and we're just like we couldn't lift our arms anymore. And they're like, come on, get each other, guys, get each other. And he couldn't even hit me, and I couldn't even hit him. And they're just like, forget it. That was like,
bro, it sounds like you were in the fucking Matrix, all fucking swift and shit.
Honestly, that's what it felt. It felt like God literally saved my life that day, because if I would have went down, I would have got stomped on. I would have got probably killed that day. And it felt like it was all in slow motion, bro. I don't know how, but I wasn't on anything. It was just like, you're so messed up. You're like seeing stars, you know what I mean? But I'm still not going down. And I'm like, you know, I would duck the punches and stuff. And yeah, we ended up, that last guy, the big monster guy, we didn't end up, he didn't go down and I didn't go down. Like he went down, they would get him back up. If I went down, they'd get me back up, type of thing. So it never actually like ended. So we basically both just tied.
So man, do you have any social media that you want to give the people watching a chance so they can find you and subscribe or whatever, man? Go ahead and give it a shout out.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I just started a YouTube channel. I'm going to be posting a lot more. I got one video on there, but I'm going to be doing it because I love this prison genre, man. I want to be a part of it. So the YouTube is Canadian Jail War Stories.
All right, and I'll put a link to your YouTube in the description of this video so they can link it right into your channel and go find you. All right, bro?
Man, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. Enough respect for you, man.
Yeah, bro, I appreciate it, and thanks for coming on. And go check out his YouTube. If you're new, though, and you're tuning in, hit that subscribe button and turn your post notifications on all, so every time I do drop an episode, you can hear it first. And with that, it's DOC TV, and we're out.